I'm Jeff Chester, Executive Director, Center for Digital Democracy. We're a public interest advocacy group that works on new media and the public interest. And I'm the author of a new book called Digital Destiny.
What is Digital Destiny about?
Digital Destiny is a book that is to serve as a kind of warning or wake-up call for the U.S. public. Many people hope that the emergence of digital communications will usher in a much better communication system that will be more democratic, more diverse, more robust, give us the news that we're not getting now and be owned by many, many more people. And what I'm saying is that the same economic and political forces that shaped radio, broadcast television, and cable television are also going to shape this new media system. And unless we watch out and are proactive, we may not end up with the kind of digital system that serves the public interest. I've been concerned about the role that policy plays in U.S. communications for more than 2 decades. Many people don't realize that the kind of media system we have in the United States is largely based on the federal and some state policies that have been created by our political representatives, and the big media companies have used their political power to get favorable rules so they can own all the TV stations, for example, or a few can own all the cable systems. So I've always been involved in the role that politics plays in creating the kind of media system that we have. I think we could be a much more vibrant, diverse, creative system. In order to do that, we're going to have to change the policies. The biggest phone and cable companies, Comcast, Time Warner, Cox, AT&T, Verizon, for example, have gone to the Federal Communications Commission the last few years and have successfully lobbied to strip away the policy safeguards that ensured that the internet remain an open medium of expression. Up until 2002 and 2005, when the FCC made these 2 decisions, the high-speed internet, known as broadband, was required by federal policy to act in a non-discriminatory way, to treat all content equitably. Up until 2005, the internet was required to treat everyone's website in the same way. There'd be no winners or losers, depending on what people wanted to download. You could access it. Now the big phone and cable companies, which now control 98% of all U.S. broadband connections to the consumers, they want to change the way the internet operates so that the companies that have the most money are going to be put on fast lanes. People that don't have the same money are going to go on slow lanes. That's one threat. Another is the role that advertisers and marketers and entertainment companies are playing to make sure that wherever we are, whether we're watching digital TV, whether we're on our cell phones, or whether we're in front of our computers, that our information about us is collected, that profiles about us are made, that we're bombarded with a very sophisticated array of interactive advertising ads that encourage us to be even greater consumers. And there's a real danger that with the power that we're turning over to the advertising and marketing industries, who are able to harness the power of new media, that we will create a generation more interested in buying than creating a kind of democratic society. We have millions of people who are left out of these changes, although many people have taken broadband to the home, and young people in particular are using these technologies. There are millions of poor people who don't have access at all. We can't have a system where some have access to information, others don't. It's very clear that the old media giants, phone, cable, broadcasters, want to also become the new media giants. And they'll say, the message of my book is, don't trust the big media companies. They will promise you everything. They will promise to act in the public interest. They will promise to hire a diverse group of staff. They will promise to keep an open internet. You need real policy safeguards to make certain that all these commitments are fulfilled. The phone and cable companies will break every promise. Some people ask, why is the U.S. media system so bad? How come activists haven't been able to make the changes? And aside from the fact that both parties are largely, both parties in Congress and the FCC are influenced by these special interests, and they go back and forth because of this revolving door between government service and working as corporate lobbyists. Another reason why we haven't had success is because the big media companies have used their huge resources to set up nonprofit organizations, pay for nonprofit organizations that support their agenda. So when members of Congress get lobbied by, it says, X consumer group, and they just happen to say, well, we support the phone company agenda, that member of Congress may not realize that that consumer group is actually paid for by that special interest. One thing that people can do to learn whether or not the organizations they're examining or in touch with are funded by the industry is to look for a list of funders. Surprisingly, many of these so-called front groups will list their funders somewhere on their website, and then you will see, hey, how come Progress and Freedom Foundation, a leading conservative libertarian voice on media, how come you've taken the same position that is also the same political position of your backers, Time Warner, Comcast, and Verizon? You have to follow the money, and you have to ask where the money is coming from. Well, I certainly think having an open internet, which is now called network neutrality, is a very key policy. We have to keep, if we're going to see the promise of the digital media evolve, we need to have an open pipeline. We need to make sure that we try to do what we can to prevent even more media mergers, to the extent that we will soon see, new media companies like a Google and a Yahoo or even a Microsoft buy up TV stations and newspapers and radio stations. We should be concerned about that. We need a new form of antitrust protection for the digital age that ensures that a few companies don't have a chokehold over all the means of communication and distribution. We need federal privacy policy that don't allow these online companies to digitally shadow us, to collect all this information about us and then target us with very powerful interactive advertising. We should be in control of our information and not the big media companies. And we need to pass policies to make sure everybody's hooked up to the internet, even if they can't afford it, some reasonable access so they can engage in the kind of digital life that is increasingly becoming essential to be an active participant in this society. The fact of the matter is, media in the United States, electronic media in particular, has never been a free market. Only a few people could control the airwaves back in the 1930s because it was a scarce resource. So the big companies at the time, RCA and CBS, lobbied the Federal Communications Commission. They used their clout to get the licenses and denying them to the others that wanted them, which included church groups and labor unions and citizen organizations. They've gotten free spectrum. Recently, the broadcasters in the middle 90s lobbied the Congress to get the biggest giveaway in U.S. history, $80 billion worth of public property for free to the broadcasters. Now the phone companies are lobbying. They're getting all kinds of special interest provisions to get the right to wire these communities so they can make lots of profits with any kind of payback to even though they're using public rights of way and city streets. So there's always some kind of a political policy giveaway that these big giants have in order to make their business successful. That's why the public should get a quid pro quo.